My daughter's drawings started predicting people's deaths. By Harold Creepy. I used to think my daughter just had an overactive imagination. She's 5 after all. Kids her age draw all sorts of weird things. Purple cats, flying houses, monsters with 3 eyes. It was cute, quirky, something to hang on the fridge and laugh about with my wife over dinner. But lately, her drawings have started to change. They're darker, sharper, unsettling in a way that's hard to explain. And the worst part, they're starting to come true. It started last Thursday. I came home late from work. My wife Julia had already put Lily to bed. She was curled up on the couch watching some true crime thing, half asleep. I grabbed a beer, kissed her on the forehead, and went to check on Lily, like I always do. That's when I saw it. A new drawing taped to her wall, right above her bed. It was done in crayon, but there was something off about it. It showed a man, stick figure, like always, but this time his head was twisted at a strange angle, like it was barely attached to his neck. There was a red scribble all around it, and little blue and red lights in the background, police cars, and next to the man, scrawled in her clumsy 5-year-old handwriting, were the words, "Mr. Bennett broke neck." I stared at it for a long time. Mr. Bennett was our next-door neighbor, old guy, lived alone. Retired police officer, always watering his lawn in those ridiculous neon shorts. I laughed, kind of nervously. Just another weird Lily doodle, I figured. Except, the next morning, the flashing lights weren't just in the drawing. I was pouring coffee when Julia screamed. I ran out to find her staring through the living room window, hand over her mouth. There were cops outside Mr. Bennett's house, and an ambulance, and a stretcher. They wheeled him out with a sheet over his body. Later that day, Julia told me she'd spoken to one of the officers, slipped on the stairs, broke his neck instantly, died on the spot, just like the drawing. I didn't tell her about it. I don't know why, I just didn't. I told myself it was a coincidence, one weird, creepy, impossible coincidence. But that was before Lily drew the second picture. It was 3 days later. This time it was one of her preschool teachers, Miss Clara, same stick figure style, same red crayon for blood. But this time the figure was lying in a pool, blue lines around it for water. After Miss Clara, I started watching Lily more closely, not in a helicopter parent way, more like surveillance. Every crayon she picked up felt like a loaded gun. Every sheet of paper could be a death sentence. I stopped caring if it made me look crazy, because I was starting to feel like I was going crazy, especially when she drew the third one. It was our mailman, Jeff. Always cheerful, knew everyone's dog's name, even gave Lily stickers on holidays. But this time the drawing was worse than the others. Stick figure Jeff was lying on the ground, his body bent at an impossible angle, surrounded by jagged black lines. Cracks? Like pavement? Above him, a gray box. Looked like a delivery truck, tilted sideways, wheels off the ground. The caption read, "Jeff, squished." I confronted Lily that night. I didn't yell, I couldn't. Her big brown eyes looked up at me so innocently when I asked, "Sweetie, why did you draw this?" She blinked a few times and said, "Because it's going to happen." Simple as that. Then she reached for her stuffed bunny and turned away. I barely slept that night, my mind racing, trying to decide what the hell I was supposed to do. The next morning, I stood on the porch waiting for Jeff. When he showed up, I asked if I could talk to him for a second. He smiled and said, "Sure, what's up?" I lied, told him there'd been a big pothole near the corner of our street, and a neighbor nearly twisted their ankle. Maybe best to avoid it for a few days, I added. He thanked me, said he'd take the long route. That afternoon, a UPS truck crashed into a power pole 2 blocks away. A delivery guy was killed instantly. Not Jeff, thank God, but the resemblance was close enough to make my heart stop. And then, something even worse happened. Lily drew me. I found it on her little easel in the playroom. My figure was unmistakable this time. Black hair, glasses, my favorite blue hoodie. I was lying in a bathtub, eyes open, mouth open, arms limp, water all around me, and a plugged-in hairdryer, mid-air, mid-fall. "Daddy!" Zap! I felt my knees buckle. My vision went white around the edges. I took the drawing, stuffed it into a drawer, and slammed it shut. That night, I quietly unplugged every hair appliance in the house. Julia noticed. "You okay?" she asked as we were getting ready for bed. "Just being careful," I muttered. But the truth was, I was terrified. The next few days I couldn't focus, couldn't eat, couldn't even hold a normal conversation without thinking about that drawing. I kept the bathroom door locked. I showered instead of bathing. I unplugged the toaster. I stopped using the microwave. Everything felt like a potential death trap. Lily didn't draw anything for a while. I thought maybe it had stopped. Until she handed me another picture. "Here," she said, smiling. "This one's for you." I froze. The drawing showed a house on fire. Flames pouring out of the windows, people screaming. One small figure stood outside, holding a teddy bear. Everyone else was inside. I looked at the words, "Home, Bernie burn. I get out, you don't." I sat her down. "Lily," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "where are you getting these ideas from, these pictures? Why do you keep drawing these things?" She tilted her head like I'd asked something silly. "They show me," she said. "Who?" She shrugged. "The man in my room." I felt my stomach twist. "What man?" She looked down at her shoes. "He doesn't like when I talk about him." I wanted to ask more, I needed to, but she just got quiet and walked away. I sat there, frozen, for a long, long time. I didn't tell Julia. Not yet. She already thought I was too stressed, too paranoid. She didn't believe in signs or fate or anything supernatural. She'd just say Lily was creative, maybe watching too many cartoons. But then the dreams started. I began waking up in a cold sweat, the image of burning walls and Lily's screams echoing in my ears. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that drawing. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I pulled out every single drawing she'd made, laid them out on the kitchen table. There were over 20. Some were random, but others, I recognized the names. People in town, people I'd heard had died. Heart attack, car crash, fallen off a ladder, all matching the captions, the stick figures, the same red crayon. I started to feel like I was living in a cursed house, like my daughter wasn't just drawing death, she was inviting it. And then I realized something else. Every time she drew someone, she smiled. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the drawing. Mrs. Langston sprawled on the pavement, her arms twisted unnaturally, blood pooling around her graying hair. Morning came. I packed the drawing into my briefcase, kissed Claire goodbye, and walked her to the bus. I didn't tell her anything. What could I say? I drove straight to Mrs. Langston's house. She was out front, clipping hedges. Still alive. Relieved, I greeted her and awkwardly made up an excuse about checking in. She chuckled and said she was fine. "Though these steps are a death trap," she joked, pointing to her steep concrete porch. A chill ran down my spine. At work, I couldn't focus. I kept staring at Claire's drawing in my bag. Every line, every smear of red crayon. Was it just a coincidence? That evening, around 5:30 p.m., I got a call from a neighbor. "You won't believe this, but Mrs. Langston, she fell from her porch. The paramedics just left. She's gone." I dropped the phone. The drawing, the damn drawing. Claire's first death. That night, I watched her closely. She seemed normal, giggling at cartoons, spooning mac and cheese, nothing out of the ordinary. Until bedtime. She walked to me, holding another piece of paper. "This one's for you, Daddy." I felt my stomach twist. I took it with trembling hands. Another crayon sketch, childish, shaky, but unmistakable. A man slumped over a desk, face down, a knife sticking out of his back. Pools of red. The name Mr. Halpern scribbled in the corner. Mr. Halpern was my boss. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I couldn't. I called in sick and drove to Mr. Halpern's house. I didn't even know why. To warn him? To check on him? I had no plan. He didn't answer the door. I looked through the front window and saw a blur of motion inside. A cleaner, maybe? No, too early for that. I called his cell. No answer. So I left. I told myself I was being crazy, that it was a coincidence, another terrible coincidence. But then, just before lunch, the news hit. Local CEO Marvin Halpern found dead in his home. Authorities suspect foul play. No suspects yet. Details withheld. I went numb. That night, I burned both drawings in the sink. Claire came in, saw the smoke, and frowned. "Why did you do that? They were supposed to help." I knelt beside her. "Claire, how do you know what's going to happen?" She looked me dead in the eyes, and for the first time I saw something behind them I didn't recognize. Not malice, not fear, just inevitability. "I don't know. They just come. Like dreams. But I have to draw them or he gets mad." I felt ice in my veins. "Who gets mad?" She looked at the vent on the wall. "The man in the corner." I didn't sleep that night either. I sat outside Claire's room, listening, watching. Every creak in the house felt louder, every shadow darker. And the vent, the one Claire had looked at, it seemed deeper than before, as if it led somewhere far below the house. By morning, I'd convinced myself she just had an overactive imagination. Children dream up invisible friends. That's normal, right? But then came the next drawing. Claire was quiet at breakfast. She didn't look up from her cereal. When I reached to grab my coffee, I noticed a folded piece of paper under my mug. I slowly opened it. Another scene. A woman, lying face up in a bathtub, eyes wide, mouth open, red water overflowing, a phone dangling from her limp hand. "Aunt Denise," Claire whispered. "My sister." I called her immediately. No answer. I called again, then again. On the fourth try, she picked up, groggy, confused. "Sorry, I took something to help me sleep. What's wrong?" Relief washed over me like a wave. "Nothing," I lied. "Just wanted to check in." "You're lucky you called. I almost didn't hear it. Was just about to soak in the tub." My blood froze. "Denise, don't. Just please don't." She hesitated. "Okay." I made her promise to stay out of the bathroom for the day. I didn't explain why. I couldn't. I drove to a motel and booked a room. I needed time, space, and maybe distance would break whatever this was. I asked Claire about the man again. She pointed at the far corner of the motel room. The light bulb there flickered. "He doesn't like when we leave home." "Claire, is he real, or is he something you imagine?" She frowned. "He's not real like us, but he's realer than dreams." "What does he want?" She looked at me with a mix of sadness and certainty. "He wants me to draw, and he wants you to see." "Why me?" "Because he said you stopped believing." That night, I dreamed of the vent. Only it wasn't a vent anymore. It was a mouth, wide, rusted, breathing. From the dark inside, something looked back, and then I heard Claire's voice, clear as day. If I stop drawing, he starts choosing. In the morning, I found Claire already awake, sitting cross-legged, drawing. I sat next to her. I didn't even stop her this time. I just watched. And when she turned the paper toward me, I stopped breathing. It was me, slumped against a wall, eyes blank, blood on my hands, a gun lying nearby. On the wall behind my body, a word scrawled in red. Murderer. I stared at the picture Claire had drawn of me. Me. Dead. A gun at my side. The word murderer written in my own blood. "Claire, when is this supposed to happen?" She didn't look at me. Her voice was small, distant. "Tonight." I grabbed the drawing and stuffed it into my bag. No more running. No more waiting. I needed answers, and I needed them now. We drove back to the house, back to the vent. Claire followed me silently, no fear on her face, just a calm I couldn't understand. I unscrewed the metal cover and shined a flashlight down. There was a ladder. I had never seen that before. "Claire, what's down there?" She didn't blink. "Where he lives." I took a deep breath and climbed down. The space below our house wasn't a crawl space. It was a room, or what used to be one. Brick walls, a dirt floor, old toys, broken mirrors, dusty papers, and drawings, dozens of them, pinned to the walls. I picked one at random. It was a woman I didn't recognize, a knife in her chest. Another showed a man hanging from a tree, all of them drawn in the same rough, childish style. All of them deaths. And in the far corner, a figure, still, watching. He didn't move. He was just a shape, featureless, like a shadow made solid. But I felt him looking. "You're not real," I whispered. "You're just something she imagined." The shadow moved, closer, slowly. "She sees what I show her," it rasped. "But you gave me the doorway." "What are you talking about?" "You remember, don't you? The night you pretended it never happened?" A memory, something buried, surfaced. I was 11. I had a friend named Jacob. He disappeared one summer. We were playing in the basement. He found the vent. He climbed down. I was too scared to follow. He screamed. Just once. Then silence. When the cops asked, I lied. Said I didn't see where he went. Said he ran off. They never found his body. I never told anyone, not even myself. You left the door open that day, the shadow hissed, and I waited until she was born, until someone with your blood could see me again. My knees buckled. What do you want? She draws, you suffer, balance. And if I stop her? Silence. Then a grin formed in the shadow's void-like face. Then you draw. I climbed back up. Claire stood there, waiting. I saw him, I said. I remembered. She nodded. He says I don't have to draw anymore, she whispered. He says I don't have to draw anymore, she whispered. He said, you will. In my pocket, I felt something. A crayon. Black. Warm. That night, while Claire slept peacefully for the first time in weeks, I sat in the kitchen, drawing. My hand moved without thought. Death after death. Faces I didn't recognize. Places I'd never been. But the figure in the corner, he smiled. I draw because if I stop, people die. I draw because I made a mistake when I was 11. I draw because if I stop, people die. I draw because I made a mistake when I was 11. I draw because something old, something wrong, is watching from the dark. And every night he waits for the next picture. So I draw and pray. It's never someone you know.